Welcome to the Board of Trustees Finance Committee meeting for December 3rd, 2025. We're glad that you joined us this evening, and at this time, we ask that you please join us in a moment of meditation and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As normal and customary, this meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media has been notified, and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. This meeting is open to the public, and the public is welcome to attend in person. All persons wishing to attend the meeting by virtual means may do so via YouTube, Sumter School District Board Meetings, and Sumter School District's Facebook page. The vision: Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Mission: Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global success. Our committee members are Tara Cowser Johnson, Finance Committee Chair, Mr. Brian Austin, Ms. Bonnie Disney, and Dr. Ralph W. Canty Sr., who's not with us this evening. Our subcommittee members or member, Mr. Mitchell Williams. Our ex officio members are Dr. Antonise Gamble, Acting Superintendent, Ms. Shatika L. Spearman, Chief Finance Officer, and Ms. Shante A. Scott is our Administrative Manager to the Superintendent and Board of Trustees. We also have a few members of the executive team in with us this evening, and we say welcome and thank you for being here. At this time, I will officially call this meeting to order. Again, thank you all so very much for joining us this evening. We do have a full agenda for today, and we will be as efficient as possible. Item number 2 is the approval of the 2.1 is the approval of the agenda. And if there are no changes or recommendations, the agenda will stand approved. Hearing none, the agenda stands approved. We will now move to item number 3, starting with item 3.1, our finance informational moment. I asked Ms. Shatika Spearman to, at each of our finance meetings moving forward, to please provide us with a financial informational moment. It's an opportunity for us to learn, and it's an opportunity for you in the public to learn as well. So at this time, she will open up with item 3.1, the finance informational moment for today. Ms. Spearman.
Good evening, board members,
Good
our
evening.
superintendent, and the rest of the executive team, other board members. How are you? I come to you with a full plate tonight, as you mentioned. Coming back off of the holiday was tough, but we did it. We got all the information, and I'm pretty happy about what we're going to present tonight for this body. The thing that we're doing with the Assistant Principal Institute, thanks to our leader, Dr. Gamble, is that we're going out trying to get finance information out to the entire district. We feel that if you get information out, it'll help us as a department, that our information will be out there, policy and procedures and rules will be followed, and we won't have as many issues or those issues. And so I determined that the thing to start with was how our funding is, our fund account, because an account number for us tells a lot of information. And so I wanted to break that account number down and tell you what the funding and type of things that we purchase and things that we receive. And then I wanted to show you how we allocate monies within the budget. Once the board approves a budget, schools are then given a portion of that budget for normal operations within the general fund, and we'll talk about how we allocate that because a decision has to be made further on how that is allocated. So we'll start with the funds. I want to start with the general, the broader topic, which is funds. Of course, you know we have the general fund, and that would be um, this document listing of the funds. I'm sorry, I didn't give it to you in the proper order. So the general fund is where we receive monies from our local, state, and federal funding. That impact aid is the federal piece that we receive in the general fund, which is a unique phenomenon that we receive. And so that is the budget that the board approves. We bring that before you each year to approve. The next set of funding is the federal fund, those federal dollars that we receive, and you see that we have upwards of 10 or more federally funded items that we have. And you know that we've been going through some reduction in some of these line items, but those are the federal funds from Title I to improving teacher quality. IDEA is another big one. And so those are the type of federal funding that we receive. And so those first three numbers of an account number tells you instantly what fund we're talking about. Of course, you know federal funds come with a lot of restrictions and requirements that we have to adhere to. The 300 series are our state funds. So that is the allocations that the state gives us. And of course, the biggest one is the classroom the classroom dollars that we receive, the state aid to classrooms, 303. That is the amount that I report to you that is the bulk of the section of state aid on the general fund that we do. So that is part of our general fund talk, but it's state funded monies. And so we put that and we report that with our general fund. And so, in addition to the state aid to classroom, which is the biggest one, we get the science kits refurbishments, we get the Teacher of the Year awards out of this money, we get our reading and Palmetto Priority School funding. So those are state supported. Then we go to the bond, the debt service funds. That's where our bonds are housed, and as you know, we have a District 17 and a District 2 bond that we pay for, but we work through our county who maintains those documents for us and submits those payments on our behalf. The next section are the capital projects, and that's where we get the capital project proceeds and we identify a fund for them, and it's always starting with the 5. And that is where we have those funds and we manage those. And of course, the board approves those funds, and we have to adhere to what you all approve. Then 600 is a special federal fund, which is where our food program is housed, and summer feeding, fresh fruit. That's where the 600s are for our food service federally funded dollars. And then the funding that you don't see a whole lot of is the pupil activity accounts that we have at each school, where they may do some type of fundraising to have these accounts. We identify them with a 7, and then the rest of the 2 numbers are specific to that school. And so each school has a pupil activity fund that they're able to use. And in this section of funding, it is imperative when the auditors come in that if we are collecting for, let's say, the 5th grade area, the 5th grade level, for a specific item, those funds collected have to be used for that. And so we go into those invoices, we go into those purchase orders to make sure that those funds benefit those specifically identified activities within the pupil activities. Schools have multiple pupil activity funding. And so that's where we house those, and those are some of the schools and their funds, beginning with those pupil activity funds. What we tell each school is that they are to make sure that those do not run in the red, and so that they are to make sure fundraising activities are going forward. And so we monitor that, and we have someone in my office that helps to monitor that. And there are numerous ones. As you can see, we have the 27 schools, so we have a numerous amount of those. The 800s is really a catch-all. It's a miscellaneous. Um, in this, we have a lot of our donations. We get some donations from different organizations, and they will have specific things that we can purchase with those items. And so we pretty much house them here. Some special grants that are state restricted or directly federal restricted, they will come into us from the state education, um, and they'll tell us how to code it. And so we'll instantly know if it's a restricted, it would be in the 800 series. And so those are some of the things that we code for our miscellaneous local, state, and restricted items. And then the last one are the special ones related to state lottery funding. And for state lottery funding, we get teacher supply amounts, education license plates, reading coaches amounts are funded out of the lottery money, and our school safety upgrades. And so from 100 to 900, those are the classifications of funding that we receive. And by the nature and purpose of those funds, we work with the Department of Ed to know how to code those. And that is how the Department of Ed is able to have uniform accounting across all the districts, regardless of what system you have. Every district does not have Smart Fusion, which is what we have, but they do maintain at the fund level. And so that's what makes it uniform. So that is a little piece of information for that as well. And so from the fund, which is the largest section of the account code, I wanted to get into the full account code structure: the fund, the function, the object, the modifier, and the location. So that is 9 plus 4, 13, 14. That is a 15-digit account number for everything that we purchase, for all the revenue that we collect. The fund, as we just learned, is the first three digits. It tells you the source, basically what it is, where did it come from, how it's being funded, as we discussed. The second set, the second three digits, tells us the function. Who is it benefiting? Is it the finance department? Then that function code would be 252. So of course, because I'm in the finance department, I know what our code is. If it's elementary, it's 113. If it's school administration, it's 233. These function codes, these fund codes, the object codes, those three major pieces of the account code are given to us by the Department of Ed so that we can maintain uniformity. The object code is the service or commodity. What is the item? There are a bunch of object codes. For regular supplies, it's 410. For technology, it's 445. All travel is coded to 332. That's the third set of digits that tells us what it is. Is it a service? Is it a good? For salary, the object code is 110 for full-time. And so those are the objects, and they tell us what it is. And if you recall from the monthly financial report that I provide, I give you the expenditures by object. And so that is what that is, that third section of the account code. The modifier is the 4-digit section of the account code, and it just gives us a chance to further classify items that we purchase. Sometimes we need more than just the fund, the function, and the object. For instance, a good use of a modifier would be when we have Title I and you have the 2 years going at the same time. We use the modifier to denote which year we're speaking of so that we can accurately report those expenditures. So that's a big use of how we use that. Location. Location, and again, modifier is nothing managed by the Department of Ed. That's internal, that's district. And the location is not monitored or required by the Department of Ed. That is internal. Location, of course, tells you what area of the district it benefits. Is it the district office? Is it Cherryville? Is it Lakewood? They all have their own location. And I have given this body a listing of what those location codes are, so that if you happen to see anything by account number, you would know what area that is. And I think you also see that when we go over the capital projects report, it has it by account number. And so those will tell you what those codes are. So that is the major part of the account code breakdown. The same thing exists for our revenue. Same thing, the fund, what's the source? The function, is it local, is it state, is it federal? So there are not a lot of function codes for revenue, because that source is going to be pretty much one of those three for the most part. The object we use for certain things to denote donations, student fees, those objects in the revenue code are heavily used during our pupil activity accounts. And again, modifier is just a chance to further classify and identify an item. And then, of course, we use the same location for any revenue that is at that location level. We use that same listing of location that we use for expenditure. So I wanted to break that down to show you what we have to think when we code things that we get. We have to check all of those items to make sure that one item is properly classified. And so thankfully, and I have a team that is used to that. They go to the conferences to make sure that we stay abreast of any changes to that. We've had some new object codes have come up. And sometimes there are still things that are not classified, and they end in 99. So for any services that are not specifically classified from 300 to 398, the Department of Ed allows us to classify it in the 399. So if there's a service, if there's a material with the 400s, we can code it to that. So again, that comes with experience and being used to those account numbers. So I wanted to break that down for you. And then the last piece of the educational moment that we're having is once you as a board approve the budget, how do we what is the allocation for each school? We use the ADM. We use that 135th day ADM for each school that was confirmed the prior year. So that is the one that we use, and we do that times an arbitrary amount. We look at what is available at the budget, and so right now for FY26, we used an amount of $80. So for every ADM, for every school that they have, we gave them $80 per ADM. And of course, with Sumter High being the largest one with the largest amount the largest value of ADM, they got the largest allocation. And so the schools are able to function with those dollars. And of course, they receive things at the district level too that we help support the schools. And so this has never been an issue. This has always been ample amount of monies for schools to operate for the things that they need. This is just for the general fund piece. And so schools do receive federal dollars. And again, like I said, we buy and purchase things at the district level for schools. Pretty much everything that we do is for our schools. And so I wanted to share how we determine that allocation for that part of the budget. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ms. Spearman?
Yes, Ms. Spearman. On the sample you gave us, we see that there's quite a difference between last year's allocations and this year's.
Yes, so it should have went down because we did approve for a 6% reduction to balance the budget. And so that should be the difference that you see. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Spearman, how are you?
I'm great. So,
Good. On the fund report,
yes.
when you're talking about the different funding sources and the codes associated with them, when it comes to debt service and the capital project bond funding, with the debt service, you mentioned that the county helps us maintain that. Could you elaborate a little bit on the difference between the debt service for Sumter County versus the District 17 school facilities and District 2 school facilities?
Well, that is the bond that we have on our books. I believe it will be finished in 2032.
That's for the construction of the high schools
Yes,
and
when we
for-
had that. And I think that was a 20 or 30-year bond that we paid, that we entered into and that we paid. But the way that the bond is set up, they have to go through the county to give those funds. And then at certain times of the year, the bond company will request that they make the payment. So we don't make the payment, the county makes the payment on our behalf, but the funds go to them to make the payment. And they help us with the, also with the, I believe it's 60 meals for our debt service that we have at the county as well, to help make sure we pay that bond, those bonds.
So the debt service is what what the county is collecting on our behalf, and then the county breaks that down into 405 and 407
Yes.
for the payments.
Yes, so at the end of each year for the audit, I have to reconcile what we have on our account here in the 400 series to what the county has, and they have to say the same thing. And so that's part of a process on the audit that we just did,
Okay.
to make sure those say the same thing.
Okay. And lastly, with the capital project bond funding, the 500s, do we only show just the current year's bonds on our general fund ledger, or does it still include the previous bonds that we still have?
Yeah, any
funding?
bonds that have a balance, we
Okay.
show those. The system will drop off anything that we've used every cent of, and you no longer see it. But we can go back, years back, and get any historical information. But the system does just keep those with balances, and we move them forward. So for instance, for last year, before we moved to this year, for June 2026, we always wrap up the year to say, okay, for all of our capital projects, we have this amount remaining. We take that same amount and we roll it over, and it becomes the beginning balance for 2026.
Okay.
And so that shows a lower budget than what was originally allocated, because the system is only gonna take what's available, and then we start eating at that.
Okay.
And so we have to go back to get any historical data.
Okay. And 545 Technical High School, is that the Career Center, or was that an account or fund set up for Technical High School?
We do, I believe that was the technical high school. I will have to go back and see, because we don't have a lot of activity with that. So let me go back and confirm that that's what that was.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you all. Any other question for Ms. Spearman? If not, Ms. Spearman, thank you so much for that informational moment. It was very, very informative. So it served its purpose, and we excitedly look forward to what we'll do the next time.
Yes, sir.
At this time, we will move on to item 3.2. And following 3.2, we will go into 3.3.
Okay, all righty. This is the report as of November 30th, 2025, that we just ended a couple days ago. We wanted to start with that's correct, thank you. We're still in 2 years, even though the audit is completed. We are just waiting for the final bonded copy. So until the auditors come before you to present that, we will continue to do the 2 years. So as of November 30th, 2025, the only amount that we have showing is $908,850 under the other financing sources proceeds from long-term notes. This is a new line item because of our friendly GASB 96. GASB 96 forces us to identify subscription-based IT arrangements. They will now require that they show as assets and a benefit to the district. Yes, it looks like we've collected an extra $900,000, but no, GASB wants it to show as an other financing source as a benefit, and so we have to increase the revenue for that amount, even though there is no monies related to that. You gotta love GASB when they try to change this thing up. So this is, what the auditors also agreed and confirmed that we needed to show on our books. And so that is what is showing. So the only activity for November was the $908,000 adjusting journal entry to our financing source line. And that makes for an actual year-to-date collection of $166,307,908 on a revenue budget of $163,916,522. So we collected or have revenue and financing sources over budget in the amount of $2,391,387. This represents a 101.46% collection of our revenue for the year. And so we're pretty okay to say that this is it until the auditors come. And so that is great that we collected slightly more than what we estimated. And again, I'll talk more about the expenditures to let you know what another conclusion that we can come to. I did explain the variance, number 9, related to the subscription-based information technology arrangement for our GASB 96. And so that was the only activity on that. As it relates to the expenditures for fiscal year
May I
2025.
ask a question?
Mhm.
All right, regarding revenue.
Yes.
And I'm hearing what you say, but I see a variance, number 1,
Number 1.
in fee in lieu of taxes.
Oh. Okay.
And
I do have some information
I
on
thought
that.
so.
Okay. If we will give me a moment to get that. Okay, let's talk about that. That's gonna be interesting. Okay, what is the fee in lieu? It is, in South Carolina, fee in lieu of tax, we call it short for FELOT, is a contractual agreement between a county and a company that provides significant property tax relief to the company in exchange for a substantial capital investment. Also, it can be seen as an economic development tool where a county allows a company who's going to make a significant investment to pay a fee instead of the standard ad valorem tax percentage that they have to pay. They used to have to pay. Of course, we know Act 388 erased that when it went from the ad valorem to the fee for companies, right? This provides companies with a major tax relief, but it results in reduced revenue for school districts compared to what full property taxes would yield. The core function of a FELOT is to allow a company to pay a negotiated fee instead of the property taxes. So that means that for South Carolina, it generally assesses manufacturing property at a rate of 10.5% of its fair market value. But under a FELOT, that ratio can go down to as low as 6 or even 4% of that, which reduces the tax base. It also stabilizes the millage for the county and the company. They agree to lock the millage rate for the entire duration of the agreement, and the agreement can be anywhere from 30 to 50 years. So that money we could probably be getting, right? But Act 388 has that fee going. So what are the qualifications for a company to receive this fee or this reduction? That company has to commit to a minimum capital investment of at least $2.5 million within a 5-year investment period. The agreement is granted at the discretion of the county. So the county has that power. And the third qualification is the property must be new to the county's tax rolls. It cannot be existing buildings. They wouldn't be able to take advantage of that. And so by getting this information, I wanted to see, well, what was the effect on school districts? One thing that we have to do as part of the end of year audit is to get tax abatement information. A tax abatement is the reduction in taxes that companies have. So the counties have a record of what they do not pay, as well as what they pay. I will not mention the names of the companies, but I will use some numbers to help you understand. For FY 2025, we have to report this in our audit, and because the auditors request it, and we have to request it from the county since they maintain it. So for instance, one of our top vendors in the county of Sumter was scheduled to pay $10,108,619 for fiscal year 25. The fee, which we learned is the fee lot, the only thing they had to pay was $3,627,013. So the abatement is the difference of that, which is $6,481,606. Okay,
Yeah, that's one company?
one company. Okay,
Spearman, before you move on, I have a question. And I know that this is, the fee in lieu of is handled between the county, economic development, and business and industry. At any time, is the school district, the finance, the CFO, are you all ever included in those conversations when business and industry are interested in relocating to Sumter or expanding their operations in Sumter?
I have not been, I think I've been to a presentation, but not as a standard person there. I don't know if the superintendents have to go instead of me, but I have not. I'm not a normal or routine person to be on that.
And the only reason why I raised that question, hearing just that one entity in the county, where is the school district in the conversation to say what is the balancing act between the fee in lieu of and the impact that it has on education, the tax base for education in the county as well?
Well, sir, we have data to show what that impact is.
Okay.
And be prepared. Okay. So, just about how much money are we talking about that school districts? I'm sorry, you have a question, sir?
Let me just ask a question. You mentioned that it could possibly be that that number that they use is anywhere between 10% as low as 4.
Yes.
What are the determining factors that they consider when they come up with that number?
Whatever that negotiation agreement is,
That's it, just a negotiation?
it could be yes. Yes, sir.
I can't believe they can negotiate that without actually consulting and talking with citizens to see the impact.
And just to really put it in perspective, the research that I got says that South Carolina is the only state that does this. All other states still receive revenue from property taxes. Let that marinate. But okay, no, let's talk about what is the impact for South Carolina school districts. Since 2017 to 2022 is where my data stopped. We're talking about $3.5 billion that has not been put into school districts that used to be, or the formula for it used to be. They have a report that breaks down each school district and how much they have so-called lost due to this setup. And the largest net loss goes to Berkeley County at $562 million. The next one is Greenville County at $314 million, 2017 to 2023. Sumter County, $43 million. Again, my research says that we're the only state that does this. I'm not sure if something has changed since that data, but that was a piece of information I didn't know. I thought other states were doing this, but yes.
And it-
So, Ms. Disney, do you have a question?
I do. Is this part of Act 388?
It's a result of the act.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did the legislators put this in, or how, I have Act 388 in front of me, and I could go through it, but, was it a negotiated and passed a bill that did this?
I do believe that is the bill, and it has the people that voted for it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Very eye-opening and enlightening as well. So the feedlot, what I didn't, and it sounds like this amount can be negotiated at any given time. I always knew that there was negotiation in play whenever businesses were being lured to Sumter County. However, I didn't realize that it was something that they would go back and revisit from time to time. So it sounds like that is the case. And
Yes.
they negotiate at any given time at their discretion.
I'm thinking that there is more than just companies sitting for 30 to 50 years,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing. I think there's more things going on depending on the industry and what's going on.
Okay.
I do.
And this is also good information because these are dollars that the school district wouldn't realize. So hopefully, with these companies being in our community, we are taking full advantage in terms of our schools, taking full advantage of partnering with these organizations, with these large corporate organizations to provide services to the school.
Yes.
I do have one other question. It's not a win for the school, but what is the win?
I didn't find any research on the win for the school, only that we would, of course, since we still receive the tax amount, we do get a portion. Not what it would have been, but a reduced amount. That we still get something is all I could find as a benefit.
But what I was looking at is not the school, but the 388 passing this. What's the gain? What's the gain? Anybody know?
I haven't figured it out.
I can comment on that. It takes the burden away from the homeowner. And this was one of the reasons for Act 388. It taxes the business. And that's where most of your money comes from for schools, your established businesses, rather than the homeowners.
It's probably a little bit more than that.
Just seemed like-
Well, I think we
Yeah.
have, for the moment, I think that's what we can assume.
Yeah, I'm sure it's more in depth than that.
I do have, hearing the numbers, hearing the numbers of, and have worked in economic development and workforce development, when you hear these numbers, your mind only goes to when the negotiations are taking place and a company comes to the table and says, I want to invest millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, into the local economy. The agreement is reached, but then when the companies get here, the conversation is always the workforce or the lack thereof the workforce. So there has to be a balance, because if you're giving in lieu of taxes at whatever that rate may be, that negotiated rate may be, there still has to be a balance, because now the company has essentially won, because now they're not paying what they would have paid without the in lieu of taxes, but then their investment in education goes lacking, and then now there's not the workforce that they desire to keep the business here, to expand the business here. So there has to be more work and more negotiations when it comes to business and industry coming into the county as well as expanding in the county, because if we're seeing that in just that 5-year span, that $43 million could have gone into education locally, what could that $43 million look like for education? What could it look like for Sumter School District? What could it look like for our facilities, the quality of education that we're allowed to offer to our students? So I just think that a seat at the table is something that we need to push for, because it does have a profound impact on what we're capable of doing and providing to not only to our students, but to the county as a whole. If a business comes here and they don't have the workforce, then how long does that business survive here?
Yeah, it could definitely look like a technical high school that would benefit the businesses, for sure. So,
Well-
exactly,
Well,
exactly.
we had an opportunity to have a technical high school.
And I apologize, but we will continue to move on. I know we sidetracked just a little bit, but this is not the time to probably have the discussion. Okay?
Okay.
So moving right along.
As we move on with 2025's November 30th activity, we see that the corresponding technology and software object code for the expenditures of the 908,850 also has to be charged there. So essentially that is a zero out, but you have to do all of that for it to zero out and show on your financial statements. And so the only activity for the expenditures was also I call it SABITA, for the subscription-based information technology. And that was the 908,850, which would literally cancel each other out. So the total expenditures for, as of November 30th, and we're pretty sure this is pretty much it, $163,551,219 against a budget that we thought we were going to have to spend $167,479. We also said that we were going to have to use fund balance. We did not have to use $1 of fund balance for that. And so the 163 represents a 97% spend for fiscal year 2025. As you know, the fund balance that we began with ending fiscal year 2024 was $61,191,072. If we were to estimate, and we're pretty sure that our fund balance is going to increase by about $2.7 million, that would then make our ending fund balance estimated at $63,947,761. And so that is the fiscal year 2025 information. And again, this will not be final until our auditors present to the full board. As we move on to fiscal year 2026, the current amount that we received for November of 2025, we received $17,614 related to our proviso fees that we collect for students. Our interest on our investment generated $298,686. We received refund of prior year expenditures during the month of November in the amount of $5,864, and that was related to prior vendors, refunds, and what have you. The receipt of insurance, we had a $10 charge for that, and that was claims from our South Carolina SBIT, our insurance vendor. And so for total local revenue, we received $322,174. To date, for local revenue, we've collected about $4.2 million. So that represents a 10% collection for our local revenue. As it relates to our state revenue, where much of this comes in 1/12 increments, we received our normal school bus driver salary amount of $210,000, retiree insurance of $494,000. Our state aid to classroom was 6.8 for the month of November. Health insurance is also allocated as 1/12 at $138,864, and our PBA amount we've received for the year of $970,185. That is a collection of state revenue to the tune of about 8.6, and we've collected to date about 41 million. That represents a 32% collection for our state revenue. For our for our federal revenue, we receive miscellaneous revenue in the amount of $3,451.31. And that was a refund from our water and sewer payments from our federally impacted schools, High Hills and Shaw Heights. And so we're benefiting from that. And then the other piece that we also received for our other financing source.
May I ask a question?
I'm
While-
sorry.
Hold on,
Oh,
Ms. Disney.
okay.
Please let
Okay.
her complete that report.
Okay.
Just pin that, and
Okay.
we will definitely
Okay.
come back to it. Thank you.
For our other financing sources, we received some indirect costs of $764 from our grant. To date, we've received $89,000 of that, and that represents a 10% collection. So for the month of November, we've collected approximately $8.9 million in revenue. To date, we've collected $45 million of our expected revenue, and that all represents a 26.91% collection.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Spearman. I know we have one question, so we'll go to Ms. Disney.
Okay, under the federal revenue, I do not see anything for the federally impacted areas. So when does that come in?
Well, that comes in slowly because you remember that they went on a hiatus, I want to say, or they weren't processing any of our claims. And right now, we're collecting the data that turns into money for us. So we're still collecting the forms that the schools and the students have to fill out for us to submit to our base, our contact, and to the federal. And so they've opened up the portal for us. And so we're now able to start submitting some of the paperwork that we've received. But we're still in the process of collecting, asking parents to fill out that impact aid form so that we can collect monies for that program.
Okay, who held it up?
The shutdown?
Yeah.
The shutdown.
Oh, it was the shutdown.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right.
Okay. As it relates to our expenditures related to fiscal year 2026, to date, we have about $6.7 million in our regular salaries. That is about 30% that we've expended for our regular salary. So that is about right. As you look at the four major salary categories, they're right at that 30% portion, and that is about right where we are supposed to be. There was a question from a board member regarding the substitute salary line and what that included, because we do use Kelly Services for our subs, but we do have some substitute salaries that we pay, and that is for subs paid out of the general fund for non-Kelly services, represent subs for 1 AP at Sumter High School, 4 receptionists at the annex and the district office, and 1 district security assistant that we pay for, and that's what those salary amounts are for. So I got that information for that. As we go through, we see our property insurance. Again, our property insurance is based on estimates in the prior year, and we get the best estimate. And you see that we have some overage going on there. So that is, our actual is greater than our budgeted, our expected, by $14,000. Technology services, you see that there is an overage there. That is related to the fact that the district is awaiting the finalization of the E-rate process and state reimbursements that may be outstanding that we may be able to recoup for some of those expenditures. And so we'll just wait to see what that will come out as. The 520, 530, and 540, these are related to construction services, improvements other than buildings, and equipment that we purchase that are not capital project related. And so to describe those, we don't budget for those because we don't have an idea of what those things could be. Anything could happen at any point in the year. And so we describe what those items are. For our 520, which are construction services, we identified the replacement of 64 feet of PVC pipe and reconnect to the men and women restrooms at Crestwood. We removed and replaced existing ceiling tiles on the 7th and 8th grade hallways at Bates. And we replaced carpet at Alice Drive Elementary in 3 rooms. As it relates to 530, which are improvements other than buildings, we used a crane to pull pump and replace at Sumter High soccer field. We demoed 20 feet of curb and installed driveway and sidewalk for Pacala Springs. We purchased and installed centipede side for Crestwood Stadium and payment to Duke Energy for a line extension. That is what those expenditures were for. And as it relates to equipment, that was the ice maker machine for Sumter High training room, a brake axle utility trailer for the maintenance department, and the purchase of a rider scrubber for Manchester Elementary. So those are the items that are in there. Those things that are not in capital projects, but those things that we needed to take care of for our schools. As it relates to, of course, we've already explained the litigation and settlement for number 6. It was related to our former superintendent settlement. And number 7, transits. These are the payments to other school districts that we owe related to the proviso. To date, for the month of November, we had $1,094 that we spent. To date, we've spent $13,247 related to that. If you recall to the revenue section, we collected approximately $17,000 in revenue related to that. So for the first time in a long time, the revenue exceeded the expenditures related to that proviso setup. And so to date for November, we have spent $13,689,788 in expenditures for the month. To date, we have spent $57,517,218. Our budget is projected at $168,533,809. And so currently we have a spend of 34.13%. As is always normal during this time of year, our expenditures exceed our revenue by approximately $12 million. And so as we continue to get our revenue in, we will normally exceed our expenditures as we get into the months of May and June, the way that our money comes in. If we were to stop all operations, we would reduce our fund balance by the $12 million, and we would have a fund balance of $49,873 if we were to stop operations today. Are there any questions related to FY 2026?
Any questions for Ms. Spearman?
I do. On expenditures variance 4, the crane to pull that variance, the crane to pull and replace at Sumter High soccer field.
Mhm.
When I compare that variance for November 30th to October 31st, so with the variance, does that encompass everything year to date? So the variance could change from month to month?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And the only reason I'm asking that question because the October 31st report, it stated that lawn care and septic work at Lakewood, and then I look at it here, and it mentions the purchase and installation of centipede sod for Crestwood Stadium, but would that not come out of the capital projects as opposed to general fund?
No.
Even though it's a part of the,
Exactly, but it has to be specifically identified for that. So that was not part of the original project for the monies.
okay.
And we have to be very careful with making sure those expenditures are designated, just as you voted for that.
Okay. With the payment to Duke Energy for a line extension, I see that that's reported on the October 31st as well as, so there was additional work beyond?
Well, if you look at that line, I show just current expenditures, and so that 47, I believe, is it the 47? What is that line? Number four?
47,999?
Yes. The 47,999 is the entire, all the costs together.
Okay.
Is mixed in. So if I can provide what that particular thing costs, one individually, but I lumped all the expenditures together and I just described what each one was, is how I presented it.
Okay.
So if you wanted to know how much particular things cost, I can provide that.
Okay, I think that would be helpful just because
Okay.
in that situation, I mean, there was installation of driveway and sidewalk, there was Pacala, there was work at Lakewood on the October 31st report. Then on the November report, there's work at Crestwood, as well as the only two things that remained the same in that variance was the Pacala, the work at Pacala, and the work for Duke Energy for line extension.
Okay, I'll get that.
Ms. Spearman, if I could ask you, as far as this centipede sod, was that additional and was that not in the original project?
Not that portion.
No,
No, it was not.
okay, thank you.
Could I ask about the instructional services? That's not salaries or anything. That seems like a large number.
Instructional
It
services.
is number,
line?
it is
311?
three, yes, 311.
Right, that's not salaries.
That's not salary.
No.
That just seems like a great deal of money.
Yes.
Do you have any idea?
That's for academics, for our services. I know some of its translation services is in there. It supports pretty much academics and all the services that they offer to the schools and for our children. So I can give you a breakdown of what those things are, but we normally spend about $3 to $4 million on that in a year.
That would be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Spearman? Okay, Ms. Spearman, on line item 324, the property insurance, I know that right now we are tracking over budget. Is that an annual payment, or should we expect, because there are additional payments that have to be made through the end of the year? Because this is 2026, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
so is
that's-
that an annual payment or otherwise?
Yes, it is an annual payment.
Okay.
And sometimes the numbers may still change. But
Okay.
normally, if we look back at 2025, you'll see that not much activity happened
Right,
after the first couple of months. So it's pretty much stable.
okay,
You pay that one premium and you're done.
okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if there aren't any other questions there, we will move right along to item 3.4, capital projects expenditure update.
All right. What we wanted to do was to talk about the major projects within the capital projects. The ones, for instance, for Lakewood Athletic Fields project. And I don't know if Mr. Myers wanted to chime in but we wanted to let you all know about, of course, everybody knows that it's been bid, awarded, the PO has been done for both the Sumter High and Lakewood. We kind of did those simultaneously. Demolition and construction for these areas has begun and is slated to be completed prior to the spring softball season. That is the plan at this point. The football field and track demo work at Lakewood has also begun. We've encountered the same issues with sinkholes. So the same issue with sinkholes at Lakewood that we had at Crestwood. So just know that that is a thing. Now we're more informed, we're more educated on how we have to deal with that. So we contacted the Geo company to assist and provide a recommendation. And so it was due to the result of rotting tree stumps under the surface of the field and track. But again, we'll let the geotech determine what we need to do with that. Depending on weather and material lead times, the field and track are slated to be complete mid-June. That is the estimate at this point in time. Alongside Lakewood, we are doing the Sumter High athletic field. We have the specification drawings for this project almost complete and ready to submit to OSF. Once approved, the project will be advertised for solicitation. Due to unsettled discussions regarding the turf field location, practice field versus practice field or stadium, the bidding process was delayed for this. It will now be impossible to complete this in time for the 25-26 football season. Therefore, the project may have to be slated to begin this time next year, so we won't interrupt so much. The Sumter High School football scoreboard updates are slated to be completed within 3 to 4 weeks, and the softball backstop portion of the project was bid along with the Lakewood project, so we won't delay that portion of the project. We want to talk about the softball concession field house at Sumter High School. That project is complete. We're waiting on the final inspection from the state fire marshals, and once they give us the okay and sign off, we'll submit the approval to OSF requesting the CO to inhabit the building. This will give our softball girls a new backstop, field house, and concessions to start the new season this year. The Crestwood athletic fields, we'll talk about that at the designated time period, if that's okay?
Yes.
The Alice Drive Elementary grading, the principal's request, the start of work was postponed, so we won't disrupt the traffic flow. I think we mentioned that earlier. The project is slated to be complete within the next 2 to 3 weeks, though. The Willow Drive grading project as well, due to the nature of this project, the work is slated to be done over the summer break of 2026. So we won't advertise the solicitation until February or March. Give us about 3 or 4 months prior to the start of work, when we want the start of work, so that procurement process will be complete. The elevator at the annex, as you know, we had some issues with someone getting the bid related to this for some reason. But any building modifications will begin mid-December 2025. The elevator installation will begin over spring break due to the extreme noise and continue for about 2 to 3 weeks. Again, we're hoping that this new elevator for the annex, which is they need it so bad, should be operational by the end of April 2026. That is the goal for that. We're having, to move things downstairs because going up those steps is hard for some of our employees. So the base remediation is ongoing, as you know. Approximately $25,000 has been encumbered to begin routine testing. The Maywood project, we'll talk at that point in time, if that is okay.
Yes, ma'am.
The window repair and replacement. Selective window replacement repairs have been completed at Lamira and ADE. Crestwood will be completed over Christmas break. Selective window replacements repairs are slated to begin at ADM, Ebenezer, and Shaw Heights as soon as the materials get here. Some additional work to replace the damaged stucco wall at Shaw Heights, which I think we mentioned, with the better material is being coordinated along with window replacement at Shaw Heights, as the two need to be done simultaneously. Rafting Creek is the only school regarding the security doors that's work left to be completed. And the portion of the IT portion needs to be done along with that. So that leaves the remaining schools to be addressed in this phase. Manchester, Annex, ADE, ADM, Sumter High, Career Center, Adult Ed, Kingsbury, and Millwood. Our auditorium systems is a big project. Some repair work was done about a year or two ago. No replacements have been done to date, so we're still working on that and determining our strategy on that. The bus camera upgrades, additional funding needs to be obtained in our spring 2026 bond. We already know that we will need additional funding related to that. Multipurpose rooms. We have plans for Millwood. Lamira is slated to have their plans developed within the next few weeks, and funds will have to be acquired for one at Oakland. Updating the phone system at Sassy, that has been installed and is currently operational. Culinary arts equipment to be used once the new culinary arts room is complete, then we'll do the equipment. The culinary arts room at Career Center, the architectural plans are underway. Our new bus office at Furman, the architectural plans are underway to renovate the existing school space for the bus office. We have a line item for food service equipment and vans. Those plans will be made to purchase needed items for food service. I think it's about $400,000 on total across all the bonds related to that. And then our culinary arts rooms at Lakewood and Crestwood, architectural drawings have been submitted to OSF for their approval to proceed. So those are the major projects we identified for the capital projects review. We also wanted to go specifically to the fall 2025 projects. That is Fund 535, which should be the last report for out of that 18-page report. We wanted to talk about that because, again, with this particular fund, for those new projects that we have to obtain a bid for, you directed us to make sure we bring it to you to get approval before we start work. There were several items that we had already obtained a bid for and that were continuation of projects. So we wanted to just talk about those things that we actually did within the fall 2025 to make sure we're clear and understand what we're needing here. So for vital records, we had some encumbrances for the $64,099 related to that. There was $35,000 in a prior bond related to the vital records, but we needed an additional amount of $64,000. So that is the continuation, and we did use a state contract vendor for that. The weight room renovation was awarded on August 2nd to FW Architects, and that was $85,000 for the estimated architect fees, which was encumbered. Our Lakewood Athletic Field upgrades, again, we had already bidded, and that was awarded on 8/23. We have secured $934,000 of that out of this bond. The HVAC contract was awarded back in October of 2023. It was a 5-year agreement, and so Lamara and Pacala's replacement activity out of this bond were done because that award was already done. The mold remediation was already in process. It did not require any bid, and it is a board-approved exemption where we don't have to take it through the regular procurement process. It's an approved exemption, and that was to the tune of $73,000. Maintenance vehicles were done on South Carolina State contract, which had prior monies available to purchase those in other bonds. And then our marching band uniforms for Lakewood was awarded on March 31st, and that's to the tune of approximately $79,365. And so that's the major activity that has been occurring out of the fall 2025 bond. And so we wanted to be transparent with that and let you know what that was.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Spearman.
Yes.
Any question for Ms. Spearman?
I do, Mr. Chairman. On the mold remediation, is there any kind of guarantee on that work, and is there certain certifications that company has to have to do that?
The companies that have been providing that service, there are certifications that they do have, and we can provide that to you just for your perusal if you'd like. We can get that for you.
I just want to know if they were certified, and
Yes.
as far as the work, is there some sort of guarantee on the work? In other words, once they're completed, we don't want to go back a year and a half from now and find out there's more mold. Will they come back and, take care of it?
Yes, they will. There is that piece of it, that if the work that they've done, and if it does reappear, they will come back and hold fast with the work that certify the work that they've done.
Can you tell me how long, I guess guarantee is not the right word, but how long before, we run out of time? I mean, 3 years or maybe, 4 years from now, we find out, will they still come back? There's got to be some sort of time limit that they'll come back.
I don't have that in front of me right at the moment, but I can definitely get that. There is a time factor with that.
And I think it's important, since you asked that question, because mold is reoccurring, I would want to understand how you can have any type of guarantee per se that it won't come back when mold is reoccurring. So, yes, Mr. Austin.
And I'm glad you brought that question up. Is this the same company that we previously used when it first was detected at Bates, or is this a new company since the latest occurrence of the issue at Bates?
This is there were 3 different companies that were doing 3 different things, so I don't know the ones that you may have mentioned.
So this is, I guess my question is this the same vendor when we had the first occurrence of mold? And if it is the same vendor, were we charged as though they were a new contract, or did they come back on their work because they had already done remediation work previously and mold reoccurred? I guess that's the question.
Well, I just have to say that the work that they did, if it was something that came back in an area that had been extended, we had to make good on the work make good on the payments itself. So I'm pretty sure we had to pay them for the work that they did, because if it's reoccurring, I can't say where it may have come back from or what area it may have surfaced from. It could have been something different.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question? Ms. Spearman, I would like to say great job on how you have all of this laid out for us. I think that it is easy for us to follow, and as we continue to move forward, we can talk about what that could look like so that you're not having to repeat the same thing over and over again, like a legend, for instance, or using something to identify what is new. It could be something as simple as a date. But I do like this format because it does give us a lot of great details and things that we can use from an accountability perspective. Okay? All right. If there aren't any other questions, we will move right along to items 3.5 and 3.6, the Crestwood High School football field expenditure update and the Maywood Middle School athletic field expenditure update.
We'll go right into the Crestwood. The last report that we gave was on August, it was as of August 30th. And to date, the spend to date at that time was $5,675,426. Since then, as of 11/30/2025, we've increased that by a little over $100,000, and this is why. The items that we've added to the first phase of Crestwood were the additional third-party inspections. That line item went up to $4,105. We had electrical work. No, the electrical work was there. We had topsoil and hydro seeding added. That was $7,900. We had the grading catch basin for drainage sidewalks added. That was $37,500. We had some OSF required items, emergency lighting to the tune of $29,683, architectural services for the additional OSD requirements, $18,000, the ADA sidewalks leading to parking lot, $28,000, and parking signage for $693. So the new spend to date for Crestwood is $5,799,452. As it relates to phase 2, because this board has approved for phase 2 funding, that is slated to be about $1.565 million in spend. We have spent $21,000 as it relates to the field goal netting installation. We have spent $21,942 as it relates to fencing and stanchions. We have encumbered $491,290 related to the actual modular restrooms. We've encumbered $45,000 related to the architect services for that. And for our geotechs, $5,550. And of course, our third-party inspections is encumbered at $5,990. So for total Phase 2, we have spent $42,942 that has been spent, and we've encumbered $547,830 for services to be completed and then paid. So that is where we are on Phase 2. Phase 3 and Phase 4 have not been approved for funding. They've been approved to be done, but the funding has not been approved yet. And so if we were to have perfect estimates and budget, we would estimate that we would spend $10,538,937 related to the Crestwood project in total. We have spent, meaning dollars have went out of the district to the tune of $5,842,394.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Spearman. Any question? All right.
And let's see, Maywood. Maywood is the first. Thank you. Thank you. Maywood. Currently, well, the last report that we gave on Maywood, there was $15,000 encumbered. Now we're down to $1,064 encumbered, and that is related. I have the PO here with me. That was related to the flooring and the restrooms that we are waiting for the vendor to invoice us for. And so with that being the amount of about $1,064 left to actually spend, we are looking at $114,660 being left over. And Mr. Myers, did you want to speak to the completion of the project or anything else that we want to do regarding that?
In reference to what we're wanting to do, we know that track season is going to be approaching us pretty soon, and we will go into the current locker room and make sure that the facilities already will be changing out commodes, sinks, and things like that. We have already painted and added new carpet to that dressing room, and so once we do that, then it will be sufficient. And we've already checked the HVAC, and we'll be rechecking that as well. So that room itself would be ready for athletes to go in and change. Everything else is ready in the new building and the current and the existing building. And we will be adding lighting on the backside and the center portion of those two areas. So that's forthcoming, and it will be done prior to the start of track season.
Thank you. Any question? No question, but I'm glad we had you all hold on to that money. So please continue due diligence before we move that money anywhere. Okay? Thank you. At this time, we will look at steps moving forward. We're under recommendations on the agenda, and look at steps moving forward. In terms of our conversation that we have had throughout the course of this meeting, there are no specific action items except one that you were going to follow up on that Mr. Austin asked about. I would have to go back to see specifically what it was. And we did ask that you continue to look at what financial informational moment we could have for our next meeting as we continue to move forward. So at this time, if I haven't missed anything, is there anything that I may have missed on the steps moving forward? Everything was so complete, Ms. Spearman.
There was just
that-
the request that Ms. Disney had as well about the instructional services.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
the instructional
I have-
services.
I have it. It has
Yes.
said to give detail on what 311 is.
Yes.
The property insurance was over, I think, wanted to know
One-
about the details on that.
Yes.
And then there was the variance explanation from Mr. Austin on giving individual amounts for those items. So, that, and again, the guarantee piece of the mold remediation, you were gonna find out the time frame on that. Yes, that's what I.
Okay, all right. Thank you so very much for clarifying those items and having captured those. At this time, we will, I think that covers also step 4.2, the recommendations to the Board of Trustees. However, do you all have anything for us, Ms. Spearman, that we need to follow up on for you? Any recommendations?
I don't have anything. Superintendent, do you have anything?
And good evening to everyone. It's not necessarily a recommendation, but maybe a question for clarity, because we do know that the board asked for us to bring all bids to you out of the bonds. Now, do you want all of them if they're exceeding the amount that we've allocated, or you just want to see all of them? Every bid be prior to the work? Because I'm asking, because it can delay some of the work if we're having to bring all of the bids to you, rather than maybe those that may exceed what we projected during that time in which we presented to the board. So we just need clarity so we can make sure that we try to expedite the work.
Okay, and that is a fair question. What I would ask that we do is hold that question for the entire board and let the board chair address that with us in the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right. And it is a fair question. Do we look at those if they are under budget or right at budget, or just those that are exceeding budget? Okay?
Ms. Johnson?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would also be helpful if, when you're bringing forth the estimates, if we know where those estimates actually came from. I think that would help, and it may help even with deciding if we need to see the bids before they go out, or if it's an overage of what you estimated. But if we know where the estimates come from and actually have something tangible to go off of.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, moving right along, Section 5, Consent Agenda. Item 5.1, approval of consent agenda items for September 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes. Those meeting minutes were attached. Hopefully you had an opportunity to look over those. If there isn't any changes or question about those, we will approve the consent agenda items. Seeing none, the consent agenda items stand approved. And we are now at the closing of the meeting. Again, we would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for joining us this evening. We would like to thank the acting superintendent and Ms. Spearman Finance team for a job done extremely well. Whenever you come prepared like this, we can just lay it all out, ask whatever questions we have, and move forward. And I think that was order of business and the order for today. So at this time, we will adjourn this meeting, and until next time, thank you.
Madam Chair, we should thank Mr. Williams for celebrating his birthday with